WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noah Layden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noah
on 77 WABC.
Good morning. It is Liz Radabali here on the 5 o'clock hour for Noam Layden this Thursday, February 20th. Before we get into the top stories of the day, your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Today it's going to be sunny throughout the day, rain and snow later on. That starts around 4 o'clock this afternoon. High of 24 tonight and overnight. Some light snow showers blowing through, low of 20. Tomorrow, sunny, high of 31, and Saturday, sun sticks around, high of 36. If you're heading out the door right now over in Toms River, mostly clear and 17 degrees. Smithtown out on Long Island, 18 and clear, and up in Dobbs Ferry, currently 14 and clear. Right outside our Midtown studios, currently 19 and partly cloudy.
The top 5 at 5.
Starting off with your top 5 stories today, congestion pricing seems like it may be coming to an end. All federal funding for immigrant benefit programs has been pulled. Tensions over the Russia-Ukraine war continue to rise. Mayor Eric Adams faced a court hearing on his dismissed charges. And finally, more developments in Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni's legal case. Congestion pricing seems like it may be coming to an end. Governor Kathy Hochul and the MTA are now suing after President Donald Trump's transportation secretary announced that end to the plan yesterday. Hochul told news reporters she got the news via email in a letter from Secretary Sean Duffy, and that within minutes she and the MTA filed suit. Hochul said she's very confident New York will prevail, and she also made it clear that the tolling cameras will remain turned on.
I'm very confident we'll be successful, and I also want to say the cameras are staying on.
MTA Chair Jano Lieber said New York ain't going back, that the city tried gridlock for 60 years and that didn't work, costing the economy billions of dollars. Lieber also said traffic is down 9% in the 6 weeks since tolling began and that Manhattan streets are safer.
Speeds are up, up, up. The streets are safer, half as many crashes, and that means pedestrians are not getting injured and killed.
Lieber also ticked off statistics that he said show business is booming for restaurants, Broadway shows, and taxi drivers. Reaction, meanwhile, coming in from New York officials over the Trump administration's decision to axe the toll program. The Riders Alliance has been a pretty big advocate for the program, and Danny Pearlstein with the Alliance says they will sue as well in an effort to keep it.
Riders won congestion relief after years of struggle. We're experiencing faster bus service already and bringing in money to fix the subway. We're going to defend this. We're going to defeat this in court.
Pearlstein talking more about the next legal steps.
It's unfortunate that the president, who knows so much about New York, allowed his lackeys to behave in this ridiculous way. But again, right, we've held 2 governors accountable. We've organized for a decade. We've won in court in 3 states. We are not giving up.
Organizers say they'll do whatever they can to keep the charge in place.
Congestion pricing is a win. It's working extremely well. It's popular with people who pay the tolls. And the stupidity coming out of Washington, obviously, they're just missing the point to get on a winning train rather than try to block it.
Meanwhile, Staten Island Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis thanked President Donald Trump and says the congestion toll was approved by the Biden administration in violation of federal law as the proper environmental studies required were never conducted. Meantime, the city's Common Sense Caucus and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman say ending the program relieves hardworking commuters and small businesses from this unfair financial burden. President Donald Trump signed an executive order last night barring illegal immigrants from receiving federally funded benefits. The president noted that the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act of 1996 bars illegal immigrants from obtaining most taxpayer-funded benefits. But he says since the passing of the bill, numerous administrations have acted to undermine the principles and limitations directed by the Congress. Trump claimed that the Biden administration repeatedly undercut the goals of that law, resulting in the improper expenditure of significant taxpayer resources. Trump's order directs the head of every federal agency to identify all federally funded programs administered by the agency that currently permit illegal aliens to obtain any cash or non-cash public benefit and take all appropriate actions to align such programs with the 1996 law and other federal mandates. President Donald Trump yesterday warned Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky that he better move fast to negotiate an end to Russia's invasion of Ukraine or risk not having a nation to lead. Trump's words for Zelensky drew criticism from Democrats and even some Republicans in the U.S., where Ukraine's defense against Russia's aggression has had bipartisan support. Zelensky said Trump was falling into a Russian disinformation trap and was quickly admonished by Vice President J.D. Vance. Vance told the Daily Mail that Zelensky's criticism of Trump was not helping his cause. The idea that Zelensky is going to change the president's mind by bad-mouthing him in public media, everyone who knows the president will tell you that is an atrocious way to deal with this administration. Trump, who is trying to bring the fighting to a close, says that terms Kiev are too favorable to Moscow. He used an extended social media post on his Truth Social platform to lash out at Zelensky, calling the Ukrainian leader a dictator without elections. And finally, Mayor Eric Adams is facing a court hearing on his dismissed charges. A federal judge pressed the Justice Department on its demand to throw out the case, calling on a top official and putting the Democratic mayor under oath to answer to those concerns. Manhattan federal judge Dale E. Ho declined to rule immediately, leaving in place for now charges that Adams accepted lavish perks and travel for illegal campaign donations from foreign interests to seeking to buy his influence. Also, more developments in the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case. An amended complaint in the lawsuit against co-star Justin Baldoni. Actress Blake Lively's lawyers have tacked on another 50 pages. The filing claims that additional women who worked on set for the film It Ends With Us were made uncomfortable by Baldoni. Moving into some local news, the young man who admitted to stabbing a Brooklyn community advocate to death on a city sidewalk in front of his girlfriend may spend the rest of his life in prison. Brian Dowling was sentenced to 20 years to life in prison for the random, unprovoked murder of Ryan Carson back in October 2023. Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez said in a press release yesterday the 20-year-old Dowling pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. D.A. Gonzalez said justice has been served, but that will not bring back Ryan Carson or all the benefits he would have brought to our communities if his life wasn't cut short. The tragic murder of this promising and passionate activist was beyond abhorrent and senseless, necessitating the lengthy prison term imposed in this case. 32-year-old Carson was waiting for a bus around 4 in the morning in Bed-Stuy near the corner of Lafayette Avenue and Malcolm X Boulevard with his girlfriend after attending a wedding. That's when Dowling started kicking what appeared to be trash on the street, according to surveillance video, apparently after a fight with his girlfriend. The man could be heard cursing and threatening Carson, saying, "I'm going to kill you right now." Carson tried to calm him down and defuse the situation. Prosecutors said Dowling, appearing to hold a knife in his right hand, took a swing at Carson's face, and then when Carson tried to run away, tripped over the bus bench. The suspect stabbed Carson multiple times, according to that video. One of the blows struck in Carson's heart. The surveillance video also showed the suspect attacking Carson's girlfriend. While Carson is bleeding on the pavement, the suspect spit at her, kicked Carson, and then ran away. A best friend of Dowling's father, the suspect in this case, said that this was a shock.
When I say good kid, it's like, wow. And when I realized, when the video came out and saw it was him, everybody who still now calls me and talks to me, it's like, that was Brian's son? I'm like, wow. Something clearly bothered the kid to make him react that way. So I don't know if it was an argument with somebody close to him.
He said the footage was a shock.
That was horrible. Yeah, it was. That's why I knew something else played a part in his reactions.
So
that's not the normal. It's out of character.
After the stabbing, a woman believed to be Dowling's girlfriend is seen on surveillance apologizing to Carson's girlfriend. When Dowling took off, prosecutors allege he tossed the murder weapon, but then came looking for it moments later. The knife was found under greenery next to a nearby sidewalk. Acting Brooklyn Supreme Court Justice Danny Chun said what the defendant did was clearly and absolutely unforgivable, inexcusable, and it was the most heinous, most terrible thing that he did. He took a life that he should not have. He was involved with gangs. He was not involved with drugs. He obviously had an issue with anger that led him to using that knife on the deceased. Dowling's family friend says he thinks a mental evaluation is in order.
That was horrible. Yeah, it was. That's why I knew something else played a part in his reactions.
So that's
not the normal. It's out of character.
Carson was active in public policy advocacy on a range of issues, including climate change and harm reduction. The heartbroken girlfriend, Claudia Morales, told a packed courtroom that she and Ryan Carson were on the precipice of our life together when he was randomly butchered. State prison guards in New York are being ordered to immediately stop striking by a state judge after Governor Kathy Hochul sued to halt the work stoppages. State Supreme Court Justice Donna M. Seeweck ruled that the wildcat strikes by correction officers, which erupted this past Monday and have since stretched to 30 state prisons, are in violation of the Public Employees Fair Employment Act, also known as the Taylor Law. Hochul said yesterday, signing an executive order deploying more than 3,500 National Guard members to an unspecified number of prisons to protect inmates and staff where correction workers continue to unlawfully protest working conditions inside those correctional facilities. The governor added that she appointed mediator Martin Scheinman to return striking correction officers back to work. Staff and other on-the-job guards were also granted additional overtime under this executive order. The Prison Workers Union said it did not sanction the illegal job actions, but remained committed to working with Hochul's office towards a resolution as negotiations entered its second day. The current contract with the union's 17,000 members, negotiated with Hochul's administration last year, runs through March 31st of 2026. Angels of Long Island, a nonprofit that feeds about 400 people every week in Mastic, will be shutting down today.
It's unbelievable to see how many of the community members rely on this place to be here for food, clothing, friendship, even just to hang out when it's cold outside, and nobody kicks them back out.
Founder Debbie Loesch is just heartbroken.
People fall in hard times, and I like to give them a hand up. And even our stores through outreach, people shop with dignity.
Loesch says because of rising overhead costs, she's had to sell the Mastic location. She says everything in the thrift store part of the business is 50% off today, and they're also giving away what food is left in Mastic for free.
They're good people here. They are. It's really been a service to the area.
Loesch says the new owners in Mastic will help support her mission in Patchogue. 77 WABC News time is 5:15. Time to head over to the sports desk with Justin Ellick. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you very, very much. Started in the NBA. Regular season league play returned yesterday, with the lone game being the Hornets against the Lakers out in L.A. The Knicks will be back at it tonight at MSG, welcoming in the Chicago Bulls at 7:30, while the Nets get their second half underway at the same time at home in Brooklyn, where they'll host the Cleveland Cavaliers. On the collegiate hardwood in Chicago, Kadari Richmond had 17 points and 9 rebounds. Davon Smith scored 18, and number 10 St. John's matched its highest Big East win total in 26 years, beating DePaul 82-58 last night. In their second season under Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino, the first-place Red Storm, not 23-4 overall, 14-2 in conference, equaled their highest conference win total since the 1998-99 team went 14-4 in league play. They lead number 16 Marquette and Creighton by 2.5 games in conference. They secured an easy win, even though star R.J. Lewis Jr. missed the game because of a pulled groin. St. John's made 9 3-pointers, with Smith and Io, each nailing 3. Coming up for St. John's, they'll try to beat UConn for the second time in a little more than 2 weeks when they host the Huskies on a Sunday. In ice hockey and the NHL, we're still looking ahead to tonight's Canada versus USA Foreign Nations Face-Off Championship game. 8 p.m. action will be coming to you live from Boston's TD Garden. And from MLB spring training, all 30 teams have gotten their first full squad workouts underway. We're looking ahead to the start of spring training exhibition games this afternoon, with the lone matchup being the Cubs and Dodgers in Arizona. The Yankees get going with live game action tomorrow afternoon against the Rays before the Mets get underway on Saturday against the Astros. That's your sports, Liz, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
Moving into some national news, President Donald Trump says that the federal government should directly govern Washington, D.C.
I think the federal government should take over the governance of D.C. and run it really properly.
Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One yesterday, Trump says he gets along with the local leadership in D.C., but doesn't think that they're doing the job.
But they're not doing the job. Too much crime, too much graffiti, too many tents on the lawns of these magnificent lawns, and there's tents.
Trump called out the crime rate in D.C., saying it's not a good look when world leaders come to visit him.
It's a sad thing, homeless people all over the place, and we got to take care of the homeless, but you can't have that in Washington, D.C.
The city is governed by a council and mayor, but all legislation passed must be reviewed by Congress. Also from the White House, President Donald Trump spoke at an investor conference yesterday in Miami. Trump says that his re-election has given new life to the nation's economy.
Since my election, America's economic engines have come roaring back to life in just a very short period of time. Think of it, from November 5th, the progress that's been made has been amazing. The NASDAQ is up nearly 10% in just a few months, and that's a lot. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 2,200 points, and Bitcoin has set multiple all-time record highs because everyone knows that I'm committed to making America the crypto capital. We want to stay at the forefront of everything, and one of them is crypto, and Miami seems to be the center of the action, come to think of it.
Speaking of crypto, Trump noted some changes since he's taken office.
On Bitcoin and crypto, that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did, was they liked indicting people. But they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody was smart that believed in that, and there were a lot of people believing it. Anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments. And I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they actually thought that I was doing it, they say, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry.
Trump also talked about bringing remote federal workers back into office.
But we've also required that all federal employees must once again show up to work. It's a new phenomena, since COVID. Show up to work in person like the rest of us. So, it doesn't work when you don't show up. And I see companies now are all going back to it. They're all going back. It's great. I watch some of the big business leaders saying we absolutely are going back. You can't work at home. They're not working. They're playing tennis, they're playing golf, or they have other jobs. But they're not working, or they're certainly not working hard.
This comes as the IRS is preparing to lay off some 6,000 employees starting today. This comes as the busiest time of the year for the tax collecting agency. The IRS will be primarily letting go of probationary workers as part of the Trump administration's efforts to reduce the federal government workforce. It also comes as multiple reports say Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency is looking to get access to the IRS's taxpayer data system. The IRS increased its staff under the Biden administration in an effort to increase audits of corporations and the wealthy. President Donald Trump is criticizing Ukrainian President Zelensky on social media. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz spoke on the relationship between the leaders after Trump called Zelensky a dictator without elections in a Truth Social post.
Well, it's one that's frustrated right now and clearly is going in the wrong direction. But what President Trump is focused on is ending the fighting.
Waltz shared his thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia war.
Not everyone has gotten the message that the era of an endless grinding war with death and destruction on all sides, costing hundreds of billions and costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of lives, that era is over.
Waltz went after those who have criticized how President Donald Trump has handled the war so far.
A lot of the same voices demanding a ceasefire in Gaza and in the Middle East are now criticizing how we get to a ceasefire now in Europe. And I got to tell you, all those voices will quiet down when we get to that ceasefire and when we get to a broader deal.
Meanwhile, Trump, who is trying to bring the fighting to a close on terms that Kyiv says are too favorable to Moscow, used an extended social media post on Truth Social to lash out at Zelensky. Think of it, a modestly successful comedian, Vladimir Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that couldn't be won, that never had to start, but a war that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. That was Trump in that Truth Social post. Zelensky was a popular television star in Ukraine before running for office. The U.S. has obligated around $183 billion since Russia invaded Ukraine in February of 2022. That's according to the U.S. Special Inspector General conducting oversight of American assistance to Ukraine. Trump accused Zelensky of being a dictator without elections. Due to the war, Ukraine did delay elections that were scheduled for April of 2024. He later repeated many of the criticisms of Zelensky, who he has said has done a terrible job during an address before a meeting in Miami of business executives. Ukrainian officials, meanwhile, met yesterday in Kyiv with retired U.S. Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy to Ukraine and Russia, as peace talks continue. President Donald Trump's pick to head the Labor Department said she would protect private information if confirmed. Lori Chavez DeRemier faced senators on Capitol Hill yesterday where she said she wouldn't be able to answer some of the questions asked by Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee until after she's confirmed.
I will commit to working with your office. I'll commit to coming back as soon as if confirmed, and I'm in the Department of Labor, coming back and answering those questions to this committee.
She said she would always put the Department of Labor first after she was asked about the Department of Government Efficiency having access to its information system. However, she wouldn't say how she would respond if faced with an ethical dilemma involving the president and his close ally, Elon Musk.
But until I am confirmed and in the Department of Labor, I would not be able to say specific to this without having the full picture.
She wouldn't say exactly what she would do if she was asked to give the Department of Government Efficiency access to its information system.
And if confirmed, I commit to taking a deeper look and working with your office and any other office on this issue.
She previously represented Oregon in the House from 2023 to 2025.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
It is Liz Radabali here filling in for Noam Laden on the 5 o'clock news hour this Thursday, February 20th. Good morning. And before we dive back into the headlines, your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Today it's going to be sunny throughout the day. Rain and snow to come in later, high of 24. Wind gusts are supposed to be low. Winds currently right now 4 miles an hour. Tonight and overnight, light snow showers come through, low of 20. Tomorrow, sunny skies, high of 31. Saturday, it's going to be sunny, high of 36. If you're heading out the door right now, over in Toms River, New Jersey, 17 and mostly clear. Smithtown is currently 17 and clear as there. And Dobbs Ferry, currently 14 and clear. Right now, it's 19 and clear outside our Midtown studios. The big local story of the day, Governor Kathy Hochul held a press conference shortly after President Donald Trump's administration announced their move to axe congestion pricing.
At 1:58 p.m., President Donald Trump tweeted, "Long live the king." I'm here to say New York hasn't labored under a king in over 250 years. And we sure as hell are not going to start now.
Hochul says that the plan is crucial for New Yorkers that rely on public transportation.
The streets of the city where battles were fought, we stood up to a king, and we won then. And we will, in case you don't know, New Yorkers, when we're in a fight, we do not back down, not now, not ever. Because who are we fighting for here? We're fighting for our residents, our commuters, our riders, our drivers, our emergency personnel. Life has gotten better for even those who have asthma, people with illness. That's who we're fighting for. And the 6 million people who use the MTA to get to their jobs and their lives and their doctor appointment, nurses, doctors, EMTs, all the people we need to get to their jobs in a reliable way, they're now going to be affected.
So you can hear with the cheers there, Hochul actually getting some support from the crowd. Polls have shown that opinion on congestion pricing is trending more positive since it was first rolled out. Hochul went on to point out that some of the reasons the White House wants to see an end to the $9 toll for drivers entering Manhattan south of 60th Street.
I also have to raise a question. As I look at the pretext for this rejection, and we have a lot of legal reasons why we know we're going to be victorious, but they actually cited the will of New Jersey. New Jersey didn't want this. Ignoring the will, the people who live here, their elected leaders in Albany, and all of a sudden, the Trump administration is citing, well, New Jersey wasn't happy, okay? I will talk about that later.
Hochul had some strong words.
I don't care if you love congestion pricing or hate it. This is an attack on our sovereign identity, our independence from Washington. And this is... We are a nation of states. This is what we fought for. This is what people like Alexander Hamilton and others fought for, to set up a system where we are not subservient to a king or anyone else out of Washington. So this is the fight we're in. It's all about our sovereignty. And I spoke to the president many times in a reasonable way, calm way. You're a New Yorker. You know how essential it is to have safe, reliable public transit, or else this system shuts down. Our economy shuts down. The nation's economy could shut down. That's how essential we are. And one would think he would know that. And then you have others involved. I mean, it feels like the commuters of our city and our region are now the roadkill on Donald Trump's revenge tour against New York.
Hochul even went after Duffy's reality TV show background, quipping that this isn't the real world, an MTV show he once appeared on, Real World Boston, in 1998. Hochul said this is real life for New Yorkers. The MTA sued Duffy in the Southern District of New York to keep the program in place. MTA Chair Jan Lieber called congestion pricing a highly successful program which has already dramatically reduced congestion, bringing reduced traffic and faster travel times while increasing increasing speeds for buses and emergency vehicles. In some more local news, about 1,000 nurses at NYU Langone Hospital, Brooklyn, say they will strike on March 1st if the health system does not commit to improve staffing and pay competitive salaries. The nurses, who are unionized with the Federation of Nurses, UFT, they filed the required 10-day notice for the strike, but they can still call it off if negotiations over a new contract progress. UFT spokesperson Allison Gendar said the Brooklyn hospital routinely violates the minimum nurse-to-patient ratios established in the current contract and through a nurse staffing law that the state passed in 2021. Nurses have filed thousands of complaints and alleged violations from the NYU Langone with the state health department over the past 3 years. NYU Langone's Brooklyn Hospital is among facilities arbitrators have ordered to pay penalties to nurses in recent years for violating agreed-upon staffing ratios. Mount Sinai, Morningside, and Montefiore Medical Center have also received similar orders. In the strike announcement, UFT President Michael Mulgrew also accused NYU Langone of focusing more on its glossy public image than its nurses, citing a recent 30-second Super Bowl ad that cost an estimated average of $8 million this year, according to CBS. NYU Langone Health reported a $431 million operating surplus in its 2024 fiscal year. That's up from 20% over the previous year. Strike threats from healthcare workers have become common in the city in recent years. Nurses at Montefiore Medical Center and Mount Sinai Hospital walked off the job for 3 days in 2023, but most strike notices are rescinded before they escalate to get to that point. Dozens of enraged protesters rallied in Queens this week, protesting a potential dispensary from opening just 1 block from a Catholic elementary school. The crowd of 40 concerned locals paraded outside the not-yet-opened Canna Buddha on 215th Street and 39th Avenue in Bayside, saying the Office of Cannabis Management should have never allowed a permit for a cannabis shop. Canna Buddha Corp., which has 2 locations in New Mexico, is still awaiting a Department of Buildings inspection. A stop work order by the agency was posted on the shop's door, but the owner expects to open within the next 2 weeks. Neighbors claim the shop's mere 520-foot distance from the Sacred Heart Catholic Academy and its church is too close for comfort, even though it does abide by the minimum 500-foot distance from schools. Several protesters emphasized they weren't opposed to cannabis shops in general and pointed out that the community board had approved other applications in the past. News 12 reports that former Governor Andrew Cuomo is going to officially launch his bid in the city mayoral race at the end of the month. Sources tell News 12 Cuomo has already earned several crucial endorsements for mayor, including former State Comptroller H. Carl McCall, and will make an official announcement via video in the next few weeks. The development comes as current Mayor Eric Adams battles low approval ratings, and still that federal indictment remains. Speaking of the mayor's race, Assembly member Zoran Mamdani has received more than $2.8 million in matching funds in the latest funding cycle, the most of any candidate in the race. Mamdani, who announced his candidacy for mayor last October, received just $2.8 million from the New York City Campaign Finance Board after raising over $640,000 during the last round of funding. He was one of just 4 mayoral candidates to receive the matching funds through the city's 8-to-1 taxpayer-funded public matching fund system. That system seeks to encourage city candidates to finance their campaigns with small donations rather than large donations from private donors. Other candidates set to receive matching funds during the latest round include New York City Comptroller Brad Lander, former Comptroller Scott Stringer, and State Senator Zelnor Myrie. Lander has received an accumulative $3.6 million in matching funds since he entered the race, the most of any candidate, but only received around $696,000 in the latest cycle. Mamdani, a Democratic Socialist representing Astoria, received donations from more than 7,000 people during the latest funding period, with 94.8% of his campaign contributions coming from small donors, by far the highest percentage of any mayoral candidate to receive those matching funds. Since filing on January 15th, his campaign has raised more than $3 $3.6 million between public donations and matching funds without including the new donations. Baldoni was considered an outsider in the race, but latest fundraising data may point to a turning tide in the city. An FDNY EMS lieutenant died this past Monday after first responders marked his 911 calls as unfounded despite never making contact with the man who was having a medical episode. The EMS lieutenant called 911 during an apparent asthma attack around noon at his home on East 73rd Street in Brooklyn. When first responders from the FDNY showed up to his home, the EMS lieutenant who called 911 didn't answer the door. The first responders then marked his call as unfounded and left. The EMS lieutenant was found dead in the home by his family Monday evening. First responders for the FDNY have several ways to determine whether a call is founded or unfounded. None of those options were used in this incident. Neighbors tell Pix 11 more could have been done.
Knock the door down or somebody was home. Please come fast. They're supposed to come fast and make sure they open the door and see what's going on inside.
Dispatcher and call taker in the incident have been taken offline, according to the FDNY. 77 WABC News time is 5:45. Time to head over to the sports desk with Justin Alec. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you very much. Start here with the NBA. Regular season league play returned yesterday, with the lone game being the Hornets against the Lakers out in L.A. The Knicks will be back at it tonight at MSG, welcoming in the Chicago Bulls at 7:30, while the Nets get their second half underway at the same time at home in Brooklyn, where they'll host the Cleveland Cavaliers. On the collegiate hardwood in Chicago, Kadari Richmond had 17 points and 9 rebounds. Davon Smith scored 18. And number 10, St. John's, matched its highest Big East win total in 26 years, beating DePaul 82-58 last night. In their second season under Hall of Fame coach Rick Pitino, the first-place Red Storm equaled their highest conference win total since the 1998-99 team, when they went 14-4 in league play. They lead number 16 Marquette and Creighton by 2.5 games in conference. They secured an easy win, even though star R.J. Lewis Jr. missed the game because of a pulled groin. St. John's made 9 3-pointers, with Smith and Io each nailing 3. Coming up for St. John's, they'll try to beat UConn for the second time in a little more than 2 weeks when they host the Huskies on Sunday. In ice hockey and the NHL, we're still looking ahead to tonight's Canada vs. USA Four Nations Face-Off Championship game. 8 p.m. action will be coming to you from Boston's TD Garden. And from MLB spring training, all 30 teams have gotten their first full squad workouts underway, and we're looking ahead to the start of spring training exhibition games this afternoon, with the lone matchup being the Cubs and Dodgers in Arizona. The Yankees get going with live game action tomorrow afternoon against the Rays before the Mets get underway on Saturday against the Astros. That is your sports, Liz, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
One New York City deli is taking a creative approach in combating the egg shortage. While you may have heard of the term loosies, referring to loose cigarettes being sold, as prices for eggs continue to rise, a Bronx bodega is selling loose eggs.
I do it because I care.
Following an outbreak of the avian flu, egg prices have hit an all-time high as demand soars. Some stores are selling a dozen eggs for around $12.
If they're spending just $12 on 1 dozen eggs, how are they going to get all the stuff like bread, milk, butter?
Some people not so shocked at the rising prices.
I think the price of eggs is at where it should be at. You've seen the price of milk?
In New York State, eggs must be sold in containers that display grade, size, and count. Bodega owner Fernando says he is helping local residents matters more than any potential consequences from the city or state.
We're taking the risk right now. We care more about the community than whatever summers probably they could give us.
Would you buy loose eggs from a deli? I think this isn't really a buyer's market in the egg field right now, so beggars cannot be choosers. A New Jersey woman is caught in a legal battle over her emotional support chicken. Lori Smith says her 5 chickens provide emotional support and therapy, but the Homeowners Association in her Gloucester County development say the birds need to go. NJ.com reports the group claims neighbors are complaining about the chickens and has filed a lawsuit against Smith and her husband, David Miller, to force the removal of the chickens and coop from their property. The couple is paying the association a daily $50 fine every day for the chickens that remain on her property. Smith said she has spent nearly 3 years since in court battling to keep her chickens. She said she's had 2 open court cases. The first case is the original lawsuit against the chickens brought by the association, which Smith and Miller fought back under the Fair Housing Act. The case is now in appeals. The second case is a pending lawsuit that the couple filed in July under the New Jersey Law Against Discrimination Act. The couple decided to raise chickens after speaking with a neighbor who told him that the birds were allowed. Smith got permission to raise her own chickens from neighbors. Smith said other neighbors also raised chickens in the neighborhood. One neighbor no longer has chickens but maintains a coop on their property. A judge ruled last year that the chickens had to go, but the court claimed that the chickens were not emotional support animals, rather barnyard animals. The judge also ordered the homeowners to remove the chickens and the coop on their half-acre property. He assessed a $50 per day penalty for disregarding his orders. The couple still has chickens on their property. They have been paying the daily fines in part with money raised by Smith's mother, Deborah Smith, who set up a spot fund account. Smith is in the process of finding homes for her chickens until the case could be settled. California is on the verge of becoming the first state to officially recognize a cryptid, a mysterious creature with little evidence of existence. Mark Mayfield explains.
Assemblymember Chris Rogers has introduced a bill, AB 666, to make Bigfoot or Sasquatch the state's official cryptid. While Rogers' Northern District is known for Bigfoot sightings, many believe that Oregon is the true home of the legendary creature. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Calling someone bald is now considered a form of sex-based discrimination. Over in England, a tribunal of 3 men determined a fire worker was the victim of gendered insults when his supervisor called him bald. He actually called him a bald, insert choice word here, but he says the bald part is what bothered him more than the word I can't even say without risking an FCC fine. The panel said this was inherently related to sex. They accept that the woman could be bald, but baldness is more common among men. That's the supervisor now has to pay this former employee, but what amount, that's set to be determined at a later date.
The things you thought you needed are fading. Your reason to be.
Kansas vocalist Ronnie Platt is calling his recent cancer diagnosis just a bump in the road. Platt revealed on social media that he was diagnosed with thyroid cancer on February 11th. He told fans that cancer has a 99% survival rate and it hasn't spread. He said he'll have his thyroid removed and then go through some rehab and be right back in the saddle. Platt joined Kansas in 2014 after the departure of longtime vocalist Steve Walsh. Kansas canceled their February 21st show in New Orleans and March 1st show in Louisiana, Lake Charles. The tour page on Kansas's website lists their next shows for March 15th through the 22nd on the 70s Rock and Romance Cruise. Earlier this year, Kansas announced a summer tour with 38 Special. Phish has expanded their lead on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame fan ballot. More than 100,000 Phish heads have cast their votes for Phish, while no other nominee has reached 60,000 votes. Billy Idol is second with almost 59,000, followed closely by Soundgarden with just over 57,000. Cyndi Lauper holds down fourth place with just a little over 50,000. Bad Company, Joe Cocker, and Chubby Checker round out the top 7 and are the only other nominees with at least 40,000 votes. The top 7 finishers on the fan ballot, up from the 5 in previous years, will be included with all of the ballots for the official vote. Fan voting runs through April 21st.
Trying to take me out to dinner, I cancel it. If you really want to know me, first of all, you should never try to get too personal.
Cassie will soon welcome her third child with her husband, Alex Fine. Yesterday, the singer announced her pregnancy on Instagram by revealing her baby bump in a photo shoot with her family. In his post, Fine wrote, "Best gift I could ask for." Cassie and Fine got married in 2019 and welcomed their first daughter, Frankie, that same year. They gave birth to Sunny in 2021.
Just take my hand and understand. If you could see, I never planned to be a man. It just wasn't me. But now I'm searching for commitment and other arms. I want to shelter you from harm. Don't be alone.
Tupac Shakur murder trial for Dwayne Davis is being delayed until 2026. It was originally scheduled for March 2025, but Davis's attorney has asked for more time to prepare. His February 14th request emphasized that with every new piece of evidence that's presented, there are still things that need to be examined. Davis is being held at Clark County Detention Center in Nevada. He's facing one count of murder with a deadly weapon in connection to the 1996 shooting that killed 25-year-old Tupac. Jay-Z's now dismissed rape cases still causing him grief. A lawsuit accused the rapper and Sean Diddy Combs of raping a minor in 2000 after the MTV VMAs, but was dismissed last week. In a new filing, Jay-Z is blaming attorney Tony Busby for what he calls career-ending accusations. Jay-Z says the accusations cost him $20 million. He also says Busby purposely filed the lawsuit on the eve of his daughter Blue Ivy's Mufasa premiere, putting him in the position of choosing to attend and support his daughter or stay home and avoid the negative press.